Hi everyone, so today we're going to be going through a potential 2020 election matchup between Pete Buttigieg, the mayor from South Bend, Indiana, and Donald Trump, the incumbent president and the businessman from New York. So we're going to be going through this potential matchup between Pete Buttigieg and Donald J. Trump. Pete Buttigieg obviously running on the Democratic ticket, Donald Trump running on the Republican ticket. Pete Buttigieg and Donald Trump obviously running alongside Mike Pence, that is the incumbent vice president. Pete Buttigieg, we're not sure of his vice presidential pick. It could be someone like a Kamala Harris, it could be Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, or it could be someone more obscure like a Jay Inslee, a Wayne Messam, Kirsten Gillibrand, someone like that. So yeah, Pete Buttigieg, Donald Trump will be going through that potential 2020 election scenario. So, Pete Buttigieg we see winning Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii. We also see him winning New Mexico, Illinois, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, the District of Columbia. Pete Buttigieg, that is all the safe states for Pete Buttigieg. Oh, and New York, of course. And that first district in the state of Maine. As for Trump, we see him winning Alaska, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia. Indiana, we actually don't see being a safe state for Trump. And then Nebraska moves into the safe Republican column, except for that second congressional district. So, 188 for Pete Buttigieg, 114 for Trump. Where can Trump make up some of this ground? He can make it up in Texas. Pete Buttigieg, I don't see as being the right kind of candidate to be able to do as well in Texas as perhaps Democrats want him to be able to do. We see Trump winning by a solid margin in the state of Texas. In Nebraska's 2nd district, we see this one moving into the leaning Republican column. We think that Pete Buttigieg could do, okay in the Midwest, but it's not nearly enough to put him over the line in the 2nd district of Nebraska. And in Indiana, we see this one being somewhat competitive. We see this moving into the likely GOP column, probably Trump winning by about 7 percentage points, given Pete Buttigieg is the Democrat there running on the ticket, and he's from Indiana. We still see it moving into the Republican column, winning by about 6 percentage points, especially given Mike Pence is the vice president on the ticket in Indiana. Okay, 164 for Donald Trump, 188 for Pete Buttigieg. Where can Pete Buttigieg regain his lead by a solid amount? I think he can regain it somewhat in the western states. We see him winning Colorado and Nevada and remaining close but coming up short in Arizona. So let's go through the reasoning for all of these states. Colorado. Look at the Democrat success in all 3 of these states. This is why it's close. Normally these are Republican states, but the reason why all 3 of them are moving into the very close, they're all moving towards the Democrats at a rapid rate, these western states. Look at Democrat success here in the midterms. Colorado elected a new Democratic governor. They picked up a House seat. Nevada elected a new Democratic senator. They elected a Democratic governor. In Arizona, they elected a new Democratic senator, and I think that's pretty much it for the high-profile statewide races. Oh, and Democrats also picked up a House seat in Arizona. Anyway, you get the idea. Democrats did very well here in the midterms. We see that success continuing in 2020. But why can't Pete Buttigieg win in Arizona? Well, it's pretty much because Arizona is still quite a Republican state. Yes, the Democrats did do well here in the midterms, but it is still a Republican state. And with higher presidential year turnout, we see Arizona moving narrowly into the Trump column. We also don't think Pete Buttigieg is the right kind of candidate to win and do well in the state of Arizona. So, 175 for Donald Trump, 203 for Pete Buttigieg. Where can Trump really kind of remain competitive here? He can remain competitive in Florida. We see Trump winning narrowly in Florida because, again, we don't see Pete Buttigieg really energizing many people down in Florida. We also see the same thing, a similar thing happening in Georgia, and a similar thing happening again in North Carolina. We see that trio of states moving into the Trump column because again, the Democrats fell short here in the midterms with both Florida statewide races, and they weren't able to pick as many House seats up in Florida. They weren't able to pick up the governor's seat in Georgia, and in North Carolina there were no statewide races, but there were some House seats that Democrats had high hopes for. They fell short in North Carolina. So we see these, and this was in a blue wave year, mind you, and so with higher presidential election year turnout, Trump was able to win these in 2016. We see that trio of states moving into the Trump column. So now Trump has gained the lead 235 electoral votes to 203 for Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg we see carrying the state of Virginia. We don't think it would be all of that difficult for him to do that. Look at Democrat success in the midterms. Even Hillary Clinton was able to carry the state. So Virginia we see narrowly moving into the Pete Buttigieg column. Okay, so 216 electoral votes for Pete Buttigieg, 235 for Donald Trump. We see Pete Buttigieg winning a Maine at large. We also see him winning in New Hampshire. But that second district in Maine we see narrowly moving into the Trump column. Okay, 236 for Trump, 222 for Pete Buttigieg. Where can Trump do well in the Rust Belt? Well, he can do well in Ohio. I mean, even though, yes, Pete Buttigieg is from Indiana, you can make the argument that Mike Pence is also from Indiana and it's also close proximity, but whatever. We see Ohio moving into the Trump column. Trump won it by 8 points. Democrats didn't win the governor's seat here in 2018. They didn't pick up any congressional districts. Even Ohio won, and there are a few others up here. There were, I think, 2 or 3 that Democrats had hoped to pick up maybe. Ohio moves into the Trump column. Iowa, this one also moves into the Trump column. Yes, they have displayed, people have displayed in Iowa some love for Pete Buttigieg, but we don't think it would be enough to get him over the line. We think it would be very close, but not enough to get him over the line. However, we see Pete Buttigieg taking the state of Minnesota because, again, Democrats in the midterms, they won a governor's seat, they won a Senate seat, they won another Senate seat, they picked up 2 congressional districts. We see Democrats winning in Minnesota. We also see Pete Buttigieg winning in Michigan very, very, very narrowly. Trump was only barely able to carry this state by 0.3 points. I don't think it would be very difficult for Pete Buttigieg to pick up those voters and get Pete Buttigieg over the line. However, we see the state of Wisconsin narrowly going into the Trump column. This is because in the state, and that officially puts Trump over the mark, and while we're at it, we can also move Pennsylvania into the Trump column as well. So with these states, these 3 states were very, very hard to categorize against Pete Buttigieg and Donald Trump. But we moved Wisconsin and Pennsylvania into the Trump column because we don't see Pete Buttigieg energizing enough independents and Democratic voters to get him over the line, and we think that Trump could retain his base just barely enough in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin to get Trump over the line. So that's it for today's video, guys. Pete Buttigieg, this is the final electoral map. Pete Buttigieg at 248 electoral votes. He comes up short, and Trump wins with 290 electoral votes, effectively making him re-elected as President of the United States. Thank you for watching this video. Comment down your suggestions below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.